I'd always suggest, don't worry too much about making a living. Just worry about getting your style together and getting your direction internally. And that you get all that from just working. First given lessons by this old impressionist. When I was 12, my parents gave me art lessons and painting lessons, and I still use his palette of colors that he used. And he actually went to school in France, and he said he was in the same class as Picasso. I've been counting my paintings for since like 1985 or so, and I've got 1,380 paintings. So something I'd never counsel any young artists to drop out of school, but I did drop out of school, and I had a drive to keep painting, and that's the hardest thing, is to actually keep working and developing. And for some reason, I still had that drive. You know, I've had some real interesting commissions. Occasionally, people will ask for certain things that I don't do, like this one woman commissioned me to paint her whole family as gorillas. I still think the artist is always at the front of the market.
I'm Brian Thorpe, woodworker, sculptor. I got a job at a local cabinet shop. I guess it was about 17, 18 years ago, back in South Carolina. It got me into woodworking. As far as woodworking goes, there's this older guy out in California named Sam Maloof, and he's a really good furniture builder. I think one of the best definitions I've ever heard for art is a celebration of life. That's, you know, if you love what you're doing and you're doing it the best you can, then I think that's can be considered art. But I really love art and sculpture, and at the moment I've been casting glass, making wax models and clay models and casting it in glass. So we're consigners at a co-op gallery downtown called the Artist Shop. That's one venue. We also do craft shows, and we have a website that we sell a lot of art on, and kind of just word of mouth. Pretty much self-taught. Like I said, I got a job at a local cabinet shop when I was younger, and I thought that was woodworking, but it's mainly just putting together plywood boxes. But that got me interested in woodworking, and I just, through trial and error, self-taught. It's kind of a hard racket to make a living in, woodworking in general. It's just, we have really high overhead, and it's not easy here in Missoula. So the main challenge is trying to make a living at woodworking. Trying to find a successful strategy to run our business. We don't want to do just like run-of-the-mill kitchen cabinets. We're trying to do creative woodworking.
Ladies and gentlemen, throw your hands up. This is it right here. Paris one. Dilate them. My name is Lyrics More. Lyrics More, you got it here. Yes, indeed. Quantum Cruise. Oh, Jumbo the garbage man. Yo, let it go, Evan.
Currently, I'm making sculpture. For years, I've made functional artwork, crafts, cups, utensils, tools, and I believe they influence even my sculptural work today. I think what's really important for anybody aspiring to make art and wanting to support themselves making their art and get their art into the world for many people to see is to be persistent. It's where you are gathering glass out of a furnace of molten glass with a big pipe or rod, and you can blow big objects.
How long did that roughly take you to make? Something like that.
This joint was it was probably about an hour in the hot shop blowing it, and then maybe about half an hour in the cold shop cutting it with a diamond saw and grinding it, because it was on the blowpipe over here, and so I really cut off that much of it. But also I had to have 3 people helping me make it, because you work in a team when you work in the hot shop if you want to get things done. I took art classes in high school. My mother was my high school art teacher, and I was always a really smart guy, but I didn't always do homework, so I didn't really excel when I was in high school. I knew what I liked to do. I liked to draw and make things with my hands. So this is a section of clear glass like such that I had a colored bubble, and I stuffed it into a clear cup and blew, and so this is colored bubble in a clear cup, and you can see there's this line right there where the clear starts, and over here there's no clear on the color. Right there is. So I do that a lot to...
You literally dip it in there, spin it a little bit or something?
No, it's hot. This is really hot, and I drop it in, blow, and it fills the whole cup up.
Oh.
Yeah. And then so this is one of my teapots on a handle still. So I blow the whole shape, and it's on a handle, and then I go and carve it in the bathroom. And then once it's fire polished, it'll have all these colors coming out. This is actually one that I had made before, and the bottom broke out, and so I just cut off the drawing part. And you can see I could just lay it right back into there practically. Mm-hmm. But I thought I can use this in a painting. This piece, right at this point, I've put into it maybe 7 hours. I make a ribbon of glass. I start with a clear chunk of glass like this, and I stripe color on it, and then I heat it up and pull it out into a thin ribbon, and then I cut it up into little squares, and I take these little squares and I stack them up one at a time into a sheet, and then I take the sheet and then I roll up the sheet and close it down, and it becomes a bubble. Some glasses I keep around for a while, like this one I made on Christmas in '04. That's just a champion cup right there, I'll tell you what. This one I just made the day after Christmas this year. And just because it has more color pattern doesn't mean it's better by any means. In my mind.
I can't get a good night's sleep for the life of me. It's just so much drama, personal, professional, in the world. I need your help. Help deliver me from these. Hear me out now.
Always been interested in knives, don't know why, but I did sharpening for quite a while, but it was boring, and I always wanted to make knives, but never really had the money to get into it. It's a pretty expensive proposition. When my mom passed away, I got a pretty good inheritance, so I thought, well, now or never. This KG1 grinder from Colville Knives, which is now part of Jantz. I just found that out last week. The machine itself, the 10-inch wheel, Got a 14-inch wheel over the drill press. I had a bench drill press, but it wasn't big enough. And it was an adjustable speed. You could adjust it while it was running, but it came apart on me real quick, so I took it back and got my money back and got a real drill press. I probably bought, I think it was about $700 worth of knife steel. That was 4 years ago, and I've still got maybe a third of that left. But now that I'm getting faster, I'm going through it a lot quicker. And I originally bought a bunch of brass and nickel silver for bolsters, and I'm just about at the end of that. So we got to start selling stuff because this is too expensive. I basically self-taught and wasted a lot of time and effort, and went up to a knife maker's house that I met at the Missoula knife show here, and he taught me more in 2 hours than you could teach yourself in 5 years. My first knife took me 9 months to build. Made every mistake you could possibly make on it. Had to start over, warped the first set of blades, which that knife, the original knife, was in the first set of blades that I ground and heat treated and warped every one of them beyond repair. Started over again. Decided I wasn't going to cut my handle or pin holes in the handle until after it was hardened. Another big mistake. Busted off 4 carbide bits, putting the holes in after it was hardened. So we don't do that anymore. Had to cut 2 inches off the tip of the blade because of the warpage. So it wasn't the knife I started to build, but I was really proud of it when I got done. And that's how I got in with the inlay. I sent my blades to Arizona to a D holder down there that has an oxygen-free furnace, so my blades come back a lot cleaner. They don't have all the black, greasy, super hard slag on them. It saves on belts, and it's cost me $8 a blade, and it would cost me probably $2,000 or $2,500 to set up the heat treat like I'd like to heat treat. So that's pretty much out of the question now. I've been at this for, I guess, probably about 4 years now, and I've noticed that I'm getting much faster at what I'm doing. It doesn't take me 9 months to build a poor craftsmanship knife anymore. My craftsmanship is probably high novice now, maybe. I hope to get to anywhere close to Bob Crowder's ability. This is white pearl. All of this is gold pearl. Reconstituted coral, reconstituted turquoise. There's a million different varieties of stuff you can get. This is called abalone here. It's just real thin veneer pieces of abalone glued together, sort of like a plywood. This is green heart, Paula. This is called sparkle abalone, sparkle pearl, and it's just pieces ground up and put into a composite material. Got a few dragons here. These are just the back downside glue, so it's not going to be real pretty. The top side that you inlay like that's all paper. Once you get it inlaid and glued, then you sand that off with the belt sander, and This is all handle material. This is dyed and stabilized box elder. This is, I'm not really sure. In fact, I'll have to get a hold of the guy to find out what it is so I can tell people what it is. This is birch. This is dyed and stabilized madrone. Stabilized is put into a vat of like urethane and pressurized to 50,000 pounds per square inch. This is for somebody I met at the craft fair that wanted a knife. Liked that knife, but didn't like the butterfly, so I came up with the elk horn pattern and his name for the other side. Solid red abalone, and I really like working with it. The ab lamb, I've found that once in a while, when I use a belt, I use my knife grinder to shape the handles, and it's literally a little too fast and a little too hot. And the ab lamb, once in a while, the heat will peel off of the near surface, and then it's a real pain to get it smoothed back out. And this stuff doesn't do that.
Yeah, my name is John Hoffman, and I'm from the Rocky Boy Indian Reservation. You know, like I was born and raised in Havre, so I lived off and on, you know, the reservation and out in urban areas pretty much most of my life. I started out as doing pencil drawings, you know. And from there, just kind of escalated into oil paintings, and then I worked for a number of years as a photographer, and then, you know, like I did a lot of photo illustration work, you know, that kind of stuff, and that involved, you know, like I worked in a laundromat as a studio back home, and so I had all just kind of real cavernous, you know, like building. And the toothpicks came about. I was painting this image, and I was just thinking, you know, like on the back of my mind, I said, what the heck do I want to buy this painting, you know, like, because I was using brushes, you know, and I was also using a lot of chemicals, you know, like cleaning agents, you know, that kind of stuff. And I was working there one day in the studio, and then you know, like, and there was a little voice over here on the side, you know, like some little kids walked in. And one of them said, you know what, you can sell that for $500, you know. And I turned around, there was roughly maybe a 4-year-old girl standing there watching me, and you know, like, and she was kind of like watching me wipe away some stuff, and she handed me a nail and said, here, use this, you know, like, and that's how that came about. So, you know, it slowed me down quite a bit, because, you know, like the way I was doing oil paintings was like I was always in a hurry, you know, throwing the brush in there, getting it down. But that nail helped me understand, you know, like other things besides, you know, like how things work when you're layering the paint. I used to mix my oils quite a bit, you know, like with different colors to get a color, and then, you know, like, and then I work with it. But that I found that there's no perfection in mixing oils, because, you know, you can never really get the right color the second time. So like, and that what that nail did for me was like eliminated the need to mix oil paints, and, you know, like, and rather than mixing them up and stuff like that, I worked right out of the tube. These are fairly good size images, you know, like they're huge. This is a photograph, you know, like black and white, naturally. This one here is a combination of wood cut and linoleum. I use plyboard. This is plyboard. So you can get a piece of plyboard at your hardware store, you know, like, and you can just gouge out the image that you want into that piece of wood. Around, you know, in the meantime, I was single when all this was taking place, and then when I got married, she started selling it. But she sold that for $5,000, and I was going to ask maybe, I think it was pushing $1,500 is what I was going to do. So when you have people working to sell you art for you, that they can end up getting a better deal. And I've been to art shows where my artwork didn't sell, but the crappiest piece of artwork that you think nobody would buy would sell. And, like, because that person had something that he wanted to say, and he said it well, even though the technique was not all that great. But it connected with somebody, so.
My experience when it comes to selling art is like people don't want to deal with the artists. They want to deal with someone else that they can talk with, communicate with, and like the thing about artists is like they can be, you have a different personality, and this guy here he's a business person. He just wants to deal with the person on the business places. He doesn't care about your emotionalism a lot of time, that kind of stuff. So.
My name is Joanna Yardley. And I am an illustrator and a designer.
Okay, how did you decide to illustrate children's books?
I had some fabulous professors when I was in college, and two of them are very well-known children's book authors, and so that's where that came from.
Have you ever illustrated for anything else, like magazines, posters, or more advanced books?
I have illustrated for the full gamut of the print industry. So yes, children's books, and that's led into, I've done pop-up books, I've done magazine work, I've done poster work, competitions, I've illustrated food labels. At a certain point, whatever pays the bills.
What got you started illustrating?
I've always drawn, and my parents encouraged it, and I was always given the opportunity and the materials to do what I wanted to do. And I thought I'd go into the sciences actually when I was your age, and my father encouraged me to follow my heart and see if it would work. And after a year, I said, "Yep, I guess this will work."
How much money do you make illustrating books?
Not enough. Kids' books don't pay the bills. They're definitely a work of the heart. My everyday work is primarily graphic design, so I work as doing ad work. I design books, I design reports, posters. Those are the kinds of things that pay the bills because they're commercially viable. But the kids' books, they're more a work of the heart.
So you have kids of your own. Did they help influence your drawing?
Actually, I've had kids later in life, and you can hear one of them right now. I have finished 2 books since I started, since these 2 little guys came along. Max, my first one, is actually in a children's book. I wouldn't say they've influenced it. It's definitely made me think more about getting back into writing and illustrating my own books. I have written and illustrated two books. The rest have all been written by other authors, and so that's something that I'd like to get into. But it's such a long time frame to do kids' books that even if I finished one, I think they'd be too old for it by the time it hit the market. So,
what is the process like for illustrating a book?
Depends on whether or not I'm doing it for myself or if I'm doing it for a client. Within the publishing industry, it's the editor who marries the visual and the verbal. So usually I will get a contact from an editor saying, I have a manuscript that I think will fit your style. And they'll send me the manuscript, I'll work through it, and then it's the choice of the publishing house that I'm working with of whether or not they want me to break the book apart, or they might give me an outline of how they want it broken apart. They might actually even give me, tell me what they want on each page. My first book was published in 1990, and it took 3 years for it to make it to be on the shelves. So I started in '87.
What do you think of the book?
It's great. It's good. rainbow. I like ship.
Well, I've been a musician my whole life, ever since I was very young. Primarily a singer, although I played lots of different kinds of instruments. Played trumpet in junior high band. I took a little piano lessons and guitar and other kinds of things, but mainly a singer. And then Drum Brothers, the percussion ensemble and the actual band that we're talking mostly about today, started actually, our first ever performance was at the first night celebration in Missoula, which was December 31st of 1994, so about 12 years ago. And our love of percussion instruments has grown really through that time, since 1989, so I've been really playing percussion instruments for about 15, I guess a little longer, years. By choosing to live in a place like Montana, where the opportunities to do world music are, albeit quite limited, we've had to travel quite a bit, and I think that's one of the things that we've had to overcome, is that, the idea of playing every weekend as a West African percussion ensemble in a place like, Missoula, even if we'd wanted to do that, I think would have been a hard thing to do. So what we've done is become much more rare in our home communities and travel a lot more. Go to Canada, play regularly around the region, so we're touring in small communities and big communities in the West. Washington, Idaho, Wyoming, Oregon, other places like that have been kind of a staple for us, and we tour into Canada fairly regularly. And I have a number of frame drums that come from different parts of the world. This one is another favorite. This is actually made by a company called Cooperman Fife and Drum out of New Hampshire. It's just a frame drum, so it's played finger style, but this one has little snares in the back to give it its characteristic buzzing sound. I'm inspired by lots of different kinds of music. First of all, I both through my love and working in radio and as a musician, I've had this passion for lots of different kinds of music. So, I've done a lot of choral music, singing when I was younger. I've done, I've played different kinds of bands over the years. We had rock bands when we were younger. So